So to start off with, we're going to be opening up Procreate and clicking on the plus little icon at the top corner and click on A4 canvas. You can use any canvas you want and it's completely customizable. So this is where we will start with the lettering. Start at the top right corner and click on the brush icon. This should drop down the brush library where you've got all your different options and your different types. I'm just going to do a quick run through for you. So if you click on calligraphy, you'll notice there's a brush called monoline. This brush, no matter what size you make it or the opacity, it's not pressure sensitive, so it will always stay the same size that you want it, and the colour won't change whilst you're writing. As you can see here, the only way that you can change the opacity on this is if you double click on the layer and do it like that. Now if you go back up to your brush library and click on inking and have a look down for the studio pen, this is the main pen that I usually use. Change the size. You'll see on this one that it's very pressure sensitive. It can go bigger or smaller depending on how much you put onto it, and it just changes on how you use it. Going back into the brush library for a last time, I'm just going to show you some of the texture brushes that you can find as well. You can add in your own grid onto the page, or you can add different patterns, like this one for example. Now if you click on the eraser icon, you should get the same drop down menu as your brushes. This is a great feature in Procreate because the eraser is actually also used as a brush. You can use it to take away any small details or add small details or erase big sections at one time. So if I just add something onto the page, like that for example, and then you go into your eraser, you can either use one of the airbrush sections. These go a lot bigger, so you can take out bigger portions, or if you make it very, very small, you see it literally will take out the smallest little details. So for the next step, I'm assuming everyone already knows what the layers section is. It's pretty basic really, it says what it is in the name. You can just add layers. This is quite a good feature for if you want to create highlights or shadows on some different art pieces. So if I just show you something pretty basic now, just select the colour, change the brush, because I do forget to do that a lot. Draw any sort of shape that you want to use. If you fill it in and drag a layer underneath it, and you can change the colour to black or maybe just like a bit of a dark grey. Go back into your airbrushes and select the soft one. You can add a bit of a shadow underneath it. If you blur that out a little bit as well, just to give it a bit of a softer finish. And then add another layer on top of that first layer. Click on a very light shade of the colour that you just used and do the same thing again. And blur it out. You can also, if you double click on this layer, make it an alpha lock. You can also draw inside of that line and blend that again as well. Even though the layers are very simple, you can see just from using 3 layers and what, 4 different colours? 5 different colours. You can actually create something very simple and yet give it a nice look. Going back to one of the steps that I just did, I think you all heard me talk about the Gaussian blur. If you go over to the wand on the left side of the screen, you'll find that just here. This works by either doing the layer or the pencil. I usually do the layer and just dragging the bar. Can you see the bar at the top here? Yep. Or if you go to Liquify, this is one of my favourite things to do, and click on right twirl. It doesn't seem to want to do anything. There you go. It just changes whatever you're doing. I can probably show you a bit better if I do this actually. Make sure it's quite big. So I'll just add a couple of colours. And then go back into adjustments and liquify. Turn that right down. Turn it up then, so it doesn't want to do anything. There you go. Or you can crystallise, which I think is pretty cool. There you go. I actually want to do something on that one. So another good thing you can do in Procreate is drag and drop and move the colours where you want them to go. So if you go to the top right of the corner, you'll see this little circle. This is where you can pick your colours. You can have it looking like that, like that. You can get the number for the colour that you use in there, or you can write it with a pencil. And if you go into your palettes, this is where I usually like to do it. If you click on this plus up here, you can actually add your own pictures in. It picks the colours from that picture and makes a palette for you. So at the minute I've just got that, let's change that to a bit more of a colourful one. Try that one. So what you can actually do for this, if I just select the black, make sure I'm back in monoline, you can, there you go, you can select a colour, fill it in, or zoom in a little bit. You can actually change the colour of the line you've just drawn and add colour into it as well. Okay, so moving on, I'm just going to show you how you can actually move different parts of your drawing. I'm going to write my name. If you click on this little ribbon tool here, this will come up with all these different options down the bottom. You can use automatic, rectangular, eclipse. I usually stick to freehand. Now by doing this, if you just put a little lasso around whichever part you want to move and then click the arrow, you can move just that section. This is quite good for if you're doing a drawing that's on the same layer, but obviously you don't want to have to redraw the whole thing again. Or you can just click the arrow on its own and you can completely move and reshape, resize that drawing. If you do freeform, you can move it all like that, so it's not got to stay exactly how it was. Uniform is what I was just showing you, it stays the same size. Distort is quite a funky one. Warp, I use this for if I'm trying to get writing to go a certain like angle or on a curve. That's quite good when you put it back to. So another good thing that Procreate offers with the brushes is something called Streamline. If you go into monoline and click on your brush, you can use any brush really, but just click on it, it'll give you this option, this page full of different options. If you have a look at this here, it doesn't really change anything in this, but if you pull it right down to the bottom and draw, it will do exactly where you go. So if you do sharp edges, and then if you pull it up to the top, that's where you can see it changes how smooth your lines are. So if we pull it right the way up and I want to write my name, you see the way it's curving for me as I'm writing. And then if you bring it right down to the bottom, it's not as smooth and looks a lot more freehand. The last thing I'm going to show you in Procreate is the pressure sensitivity tools that you can use on nearly every single brush that you're using. It's not necessarily a tool that you can click on, it's a shortcut that you can use for when you're actually creating art. So first off, if you're drawing a line, you do a straight line, it's not very straight. If you press down and hold it where you finish, it straightens that line out for you. Another one is if you're drawing a shape. It's not the best, but if you hold and press where you stopped, it straightens the lines for you. And you can also click edit shape at the top and it will just kind of change it in different ways. And the one that I use a lot for a circle, it either makes an ellipse, as it calls it, or if you press down on the page, it makes it a perfect circle. You can also do this by holding it down and then clicking edit shape and circle at the top as well. Another thing that you can do in Procreate is import fonts. If you go onto the font and find a font you like, I'm just going to use this one called Bunny Honey. Click download, and then if you click the arrow up here and click on the font, you might have to try and find it. Here we have it. Double click it, you should come up with a folder. Then when you click into the folder and click on the font that you want to use, it automatically imports it. So then you can add text. Let's just put my name, double click, click in the bar, and then if you look through here, these are all the fonts that you've used or downloaded. So let's have a look. There it is. This is also great for if you want to learn to write a different way. You can do that, turn the opacity right down, and if you open up another layer, you can actually practice your own writing. See? Now what I'm going to show you as well is how you can turn that into something a little bit better, maybe add a shadow, add some highlights. So you've got your first one there. What you want to do is just change the colour of it. Let's go for that colour. Duplicate. Now on this one, I'm going to go to edit text. Click on the black, drag it over, that should work, maybe not. I'm being a bit thick, I've left the top layer on. So yeah, it's changed it. Turn that back on, add another layer on the top. So if you grab that bottom layer and just pull it out a little bit, you'll see it adds a bit of a shadow. Go back up to the adjustments with that one that we talked about and click on Gaussian blur. Gives you a little shadow. I like to turn it down slightly. And then with that top layer, you can add highlights. Maybe turn the brush down a little bit. This is just rough, just so you can see. But it's a really good tool that Procreate uses. See? There we go.